So I'll start the classic hyperhidrosis. And there are many different types, but the
Mhm.
classic is primary focal hyperhidrosis. We call it as dermatology, and that is a genetically related condition that usually starts after the age of 9, teenage years, 9 and up to teenage years. And people sweat a lot during the day. They don't necessarily sweat that much at night.
Oh,
People think, yeah, they sweat during the day. It's interesting they don't sweat at night, but they sweat and they ruin clothes, and you just sweat not when you exercise. I'm not talking about sweat when you exercise. I'm talking about
mhm.
sweating all the time. Sweating when you shouldn't be sweating. Sweating when you're relaxed. Sweating when you're nervous. People are thinking like, why am I sweating? I shouldn't be sweating. I'm not nervous. I'm not, exercising. But that's what happens when you have what's called primary focal
Right,
hyperhidrosis.
right. So you did mention about there's primary hyperhidrosis. So for our viewers here, for the information of our viewers, is there also such thing as secondary hyperhidrosis?
Secondary hyperhidrosis means it's caused by a condition, and that can happen anytime during life. So you may have some sort of benign tumor that triggers hyperhidrosis, for example, or it's an autoimmune condition that triggers hyperhidrosis. So when it's primary meaning first, it's a genetic thing. That's the main thing. It's not caused by something else.
Right,
So
right.
there are other ways to have hyperhidrosis, but primary is the one that's genetic that comes when most people have, and it starts when you're as young as 9 years old.
Right. And I love that you highlighted that, Dr. Green, because it also really highlights the significance of making sure that you consult a doctor, right? Because you don't know. Maybe there is an underlying cause, maybe not. And I think, it's a beautiful thing that we're talking about it right now because it's really important to be aware. Why do you think that is so, Dr. Green? Could it be because they don't realize that it is a medical condition? Could it be because they're embarrassed to talk about it? Your encounters with patients and the stories that they tell you. What could the reason be?
I think it's all of the above, all that you mentioned. First, they're embarrassed. They don't want to bring it up, not just with their family, but with there's no genetic testing for primary focal hyperhidrosis. It's a clinical diagnosis. You have it. You know you have it if you sweat a lot and you have those clinical parameters that I mentioned, onset during adolescence and sweating a lot during the day, staining shirts, etc.
And that I agree with you, Dr. Green. That is actually the main reason why we continue to make initiatives like this one. We really, that's our main mission. It's really to the silence around sweating is something that we really want to break. And in honor of Hyperhidrosis Month, and I hope it doesn't end in in Hyperhidrosis Month only, but I really hope that people become more aware. And I think it's also really important that even if you don't have the condition, even if you don't have hyperhidrosis, it's important for you to be knowledgeable of it so that you know how to express support, right? You know how to be there for people that has the condition. And Green earlier that you shouldn't let this control your life. You shouldn't the end of it all because there are treatments available, and that's actually something that's, I think, very important to talk about because when we talk about treatment, we mean there's hope, right? And that's the good news to everyone watching right now live. If you guys know anybody or if you have the condition yourself, the good news is that hyperhidrosis is treatable. There are treatments available. And Dr. Green, could you walk us through some of the treatment options available today for managing this condition?
Yes, I will. And one other thing I wanted to mention before is people shouldn't ignore it. I mean, it's not something you
Right.
live with. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be lived with. And that I get a lot. Oh, it's just something I live with. No, you don't live with bringing four shirts to change into every day. That's not the way to live. You don't have to do that. So the treatments, there are over-the-counter treatments that are strong clinical strength deodorants. And those deodorants you should be using twice a day. Now, people with primary focal hyperhidrosis, that's usually not enough. But you can start with that. The clinical strength over-the-counter deodorants, and that should be used twice a day. But again, people with this condition, this is for underarm sweating specifically, not palm sole. That's a whole other issue. But
Mm-hmm.
people with underarm sweating, uh, usually it's not going to work. So this is
Mm-hmm.
where you go see your dermatologist. And there are multiple treatment options available today. We have an iontophoresis device. There are several devices on the market. Of course, I think Dermadry is the best. It's a prescription from your doctor. I mean, it varies from what state or what country you're in. Where I live, it's a prescription I write
Mm-hmm.
frequently for my patients, and it's delivered to the house, and we go over how to use it, and it's very user friendly. We can get into that if you want later.